My dear people of the southern Cameroons, my dear people of Amazonia, accept revolutionary greetings from me, John Ba Akuro. Today is day number 20 of the month of January in the year 2021. Today is a great day. Today we all had the pleasure of watching on live television democracy in display. We had the opportunity to watch how strong and regulatory institutions operate in the United States of America. We saw one president depart and another one come in peace. This is what we call a functional democracy. My dear people, what we witness today might not have traditionally been how it often operates in the United States, because it's even sometimes, much more moving than what we saw today, because both the outgoing and incoming presidents sometimes are there together, hug each other and everything. But whatever the case, we saw today the greatness of the country called the United States of America. I mean greatness. Once more, they demonstrated just how sweet democracy is when it is preserved and when it is regulated by institutions and not by individuals. My dear people, I know that a lot of Southern Cameroonians, just like myself, who have had the opportunity to know our history, looked at this with a lot of nostalgia. I know that especially those who were lucky enough to be alive in the early and late 50s, right up to 1961, had even greater nostalgia than some of us who only read it in books definitely did have. Because way back at that time, in the southern Cameroons, there was a thriving and very functional democracy where the incumbent lost the election and peacefully, gracefully, with members of his party, go out there to hand over with joy and camaraderie to the incoming prime minister of the southern Cameroons. That happened between Ndeli and Foncha with a lot of camaraderie. It happened also going from, right up to Pamuna, Solomon Tandem Muna. It happened. Even in the last days of the southern Cameroons, we could see people of opposing political parties coming to campaign for elections either into the House of Chiefs or in the Southern Cameroon's House of Assembly. You will see the people who come stand on the same soapbox. One will campaign and go down, and the other will climb and campaign. That was democracy in motion. That is the soul of the Southern Cameroons we are seeking to restore through the struggle. For those who are not aware, that is the soul of the Southern Cameroons we are fighting for, to restore. That beautiful country, that beacon of democracy in Africa at a time when in most countries that thing you call democracy in Africa did not still exist. We were exercising it in Southern Cameroons with a lot of maturity. That is the country we are seeking to restore. That is the beautiful place, the beautiful environment, the beautiful thoughts, the beautiful minds we are seeking to restore. My dear people of the Southern Cameroons, I know that you, just like me, are concerned that we really have to do everything possible to restore this country. We have to. We are almost there. We are very close to doing so. We are very close to making that history, and we have to do everything to let it happen in our times. Today is not only a great day because of what was happening in the United States of America. It's a great day because this is another moment for us to celebrate the continuous internationalization of our struggle. I said the last time I communicated here that there are too many Southern Cameroonians out there. You don't know them. They don't even want you to know them. They don't want anyone to know them. But they are not sleeping. They are not eating freely. They are not resting. Day and night, they are knocking at doors and getting into offices around the world to make sure that we will have a country, to make sure that we will restore the Southern Cameroons. to make sure that we will regain the soul of our country, lost to some ancestral union with La République du Cameroun in 1961. My dear people, this is a great moment. Before I delve into actually letting us live some of these great things that should give us, some joy, that should reinvigorate our actions, that should strengthen our resolve, let me talk about this piece of paper, this sheet of paper I received just before I came to do this recording. Let me share it on my screen so we'll look at it all together. You see, this piece of paper is a decision issued by someone who calls himself Divisional Officer for Ndu. His name is Adamu Shuaibu Ibrahim. In this piece, he is saying that the Ndu market should be closed, all stores sealed, periodic market closed, that the bikes of commercial motorbike riders should be confiscated because they didn't work on Monday, that every place that did not open on Monday should be sealed. And he says that anybody who has ever observed ghost towns and all whatnot, all their businesses will be closed down until they go to his office, until they go to his administration, until the people come up to him to confess to him their, their sins in quote of respecting ghost towns and sign an undertaking that they'll never respect ghost towns again. Then will the markets open? Then will the shops be unsealed? Then will the bikes be returned? My people, let me say this once and for all, and do listen to me very well. Take note, first of all, that the shops that were sealed in Bamenda over 2 weeks ago, the people have not bothered. Those who hurriedly went and signed undertakings, they have not even respected those undertakings because they can't. Because you don't have to transform your lives into human shields to please Mr. Achobang Paul, to please Mr. Adamu Shaibu, to please Mr. Lele Adolphe Lafrique de Benchofo. No, you don't have to. Those people simply came to the realization that there is no point bothering about these folks. Let me say this. The people of La République du Cameroun, these DOs, those SDOs, those governors, those appointed mayors, they need us to do business, pay taxes, so that they should have money to live the luscious lives that they are living. Listen, and I want you to understand well. Even when you don't go physically to a taxation office to pay what they call it in French too often, because they never have the courtesy to call it in our language, impôt libératoire, to pay all of even when you don't go to pay all of those things, by opening your shop and doing business, you are paying taxes. Anytime you walk into the bank and do a transaction in the bank takes VAT, value added tax. By the time you sell toothpaste to someone, you are paying taxes to government because there was value added tax on that particular toothpaste. By the time everything that you do, by the time you buy 1 liter of petrol, let me say this, especially to the Okada people, to the taxi drivers, when you park those taxis, they suffer. Because by the time you buy 1 liter of petrol, 1 liter of petrol, trust me, on every 1 liter of petrol, you are paying taxes up to more than 300 CFA francs. Just taxes. Imagine when you buy 10 liters of petrol, 10 liters of gas, you are paying to the Cameroon government, to their treasury. So they give this money to the DO, to the SDO, to Achobang Paul and others to live a luscious life on. You are paying 300 per liter. So when you take 10 liters, you are paying 3,000 in taxes. So when you pack down, imagine what happens. So they are the ones who are going to face all the trouble. They are the ones who are going to be in difficulties when we simply let them seal the shops. Don't hurry. They will come back begging. This is exactly what Gandhi and the people of India did to defeat the almighty United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland with a huge army. This is what they did. They simply did not let them come to the land of their birth and determine how they live. They didn't. So I'm talking to the people of Ndu. Don't sign any freaking undertaking. Foku, the proprietor of Foku, who is from La République du Cameroun, refused to sign an undertaking, even though he's from La République du Cameroun and it's their colonial administration. He decided to sue. How much of you? Don't you worry, my people. Don't sign no freaking undertaking, because when you do that, you are giving them power over you. You open this business with your money. You own the capital. You are, let me put it in broken language, you are the Oga Kwata of your business. You are the Alpha and the Omega of your business. You open when you want. You shut down when you want. You hire when you have the means to. You decide to do all the work by yourself because you have the time to do it. That government freaking doesn't have any share in your business. That divisional officer has no say in your business. So for you to begin signing an undertaking with him that you open your businesses on a particular day is selling your birthright. Don't get into that. My dear people, we will not have any of that. Let me be clear to each and every one of us here. When you see these people doing this now, because that's the same thing happening in Victoria, that's the same thing happening in Boya, same thing happening in Baba. You see them now doing this, they are worried, because they are beginning to see for themselves that the work that we have been doing underground from time immemorial on the international scene is beginning to pay off. So they want to frighten us. They want to frighten us to give up, because they know that as long as we keep maintaining this Monday, this ghost town, which is our own form of peaceful civil disobedience, as long as we keep maintaining it, the world will keep understanding they cannot deceive them, that the problem is solved, that we have given up on our own aspirations. My dear people, we have to be strong. Just take a listen. I know you've listened already, somehow, from several channels, even on this particular platform, to the incoming U.S. Secretary of State, Tony Blinken, talk about the commitment and the policy options that they have towards addressing situations of conflicting areas in Africa. And particularly, he mentioned Cameroon and talked about the situation in the southern Cameroons when he referred to the atrocious crimes against the people, against the English-speaking people in the Cameroons. Take a listen, and I'll come back.
Have referenced Russia and the tragic arrest of Navalny and the importance of advancing human rights and supporting the fight for democracy, whether it's in failed authoritarian states like Venezuela, or it's in Putin's Russia, or it's elsewhere in the world. You know my long concern for Africa. There was just a deeply flawed election in Uganda, where Museveni has again held on to power in no small part by engaging in a blatant disregard for human rights. There are other countries of real concern in Ethiopia, the violence in the Tigray region, in Sudan, on the other hand, where there's been an encouraging transition to democracy recently. How do you plan to better support the fragile transition in Sudan while pushing back on those countries that are backsliding on their commitment to democracy, like Uganda, or some would argue Ethiopia?
I think it starts with our very active engagement, not being AWOL when these problems emerge. Ethiopia, I share your deep concerns. We have seen a number of deeply concerning actions taken, including atrocities directed both at people in Tigray, directed at Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia. We, I think, need to see much greater access to the region, accountability, an effort to put a dialogue in place so that the issues that cause the conflict can actually be discussed and litigated as opposed to dealt with through violence. We need to see a restoration of communications. We need access for humanitarian assistance in the region. And I worry as well that what started there has the potential to be destabilizing throughout the Horn of Africa. So I would like to see American diplomacy fully engaged in trying to contend with this challenge. You cited a number of other places where I share your concerns about the elections in Uganda, concerns in Cameroon recently, particularly violence directed at the Anglophone population. So there are a whole series of places where we have.
You have heard it for yourself. This is why the government of La République du Cameroun is so worried. This is why right now they are determined to cause a lot of havoc. This is why they are struggling at all costs to push us so that we give up, so that they tell the rest of the world that, look at it, this problem has been resolved, there is nothing for you to worry about. My dear people, we have to be strong. We have to be strong. I know some of you, just like myself, have been insulted. You have been mocked at by naysayers. You have been told you are wasting your time. Sometimes, even with all your effort, with all your devotion, you have even been called names. You have even been called a blackleg. You have even been called a federalist. You have even been called an agent of La République, just like some have called me. So someone called me yesterday, said, but Mr. Mbakuro, I had have called you all these names, yet you continue. You are steady. You remain focused. What is your secret? And I said, listen, I have a lot of mentors. And among them is one, Richard Branson. I say he had received the same question. And this is what he answered. He said, my biggest motivation, just keep challenging myself. I see life almost like one long university education that I never had. Every day, I'm learning something new. So my dear brothers and sisters of the Southern Cameroons, you will be mocked at. You will be insulted. You will be chided. You may even be brutalized. All of this is meant simply to take your concentration away from the struggle. It is meant to take your attention away from the objective, which is Boya, that you are focused on, that we are all focused on. It is meant to derail us. A lot of these people doing this are agents provocateurs. A lot of the people doing it are sponsored agents who are in our midst, whose only role is to create this confusion, is to make sure that they keep, ripping us apart, and that they discourage us to the point where even our own objective, even our own, aspiration becomes like a problem to us. We wouldn't let them. Listen, when I came here the last time to talk about this resolution from the U.S. Senate, I said it was unlike any other resolution. Naysayers came and said, oh, there have been so many resolutions coming out. What have they done? They just added resolutions. I said, no. This particular resolution will reverberate. Because one, it was a revelation, it was a resolution that was giving out a mandate. It was giving mandates. One, it gave a mandate to the U.S. State Department to start acting. Number two, it gave a mandate to the U.S. permanent representative at the United Nations, of course, who's at the Security Council, to start acting, to engage multilateral diplomacy and see how to bring about the situation in the Southern Cameroons to be a main item on the agenda at the UN Security Council. It gave a mandate to other partners of the United States, to their allies. And we have seen it. The French member of parliament, Sébastien Nadeau, already called the attention of the French government to the fact that in that resolution, France was singularly pointed out as not doing enough. And we are the ones saying then that France has been playing a double face. We saw the reaction already. And listened, in Canada, the people are already calling on their government to follow suit with what happened in the US Senate. And now, we have also listened to a member of the Labour Party who is a parliamentarian, who is a member of parliament in the UK, Mrs. Thornberry, Emily, talk very passionately. I know you have had the opportunity to listen to her, but I'd like us to take another listen. For those of you who didn't have the chance to listen or to get it from other places, let us share it again together so that you understand why these people are out now like mad dogs. They have run out of ideas. They don't know what else to do. All they need to do now is hurry, 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 hurry. But trust me, these are people who have failed.
Madam Deputy Speaker, just 5 days before the US Senate was attacked, they came together to approve a resolution co-sponsored by 20 senators from both parties, from Marco Rubio to Cory Booker. And it was about this, about the brutal campaign of subjugation by the French-speaking government in Cameroon against the country's English-speaking minority. The Senate resolution condemned with great force the atrocities committed by the Anglophone separatist militias, and it speaks with equal power about the actions of the Cameroon government, including, I quote, torture and sexual abuse, massacres and burnings of villages, use of live ammunition against protesters, arbitrary arrests and unlawful detention, forced disappearance and deaths in custody, attacks on journalists, and the regular killing of civilians, including women, children, and the elderly. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Senate resolution noted approvingly that exactly 1 year before, the Office of the US Trade Representative, remember this is Donald Trump's trade representative, the direct counterpart of the Secretary of State for International Trade, had terminated Cameroon's access to preferential trade rights due, I quote, to persistent gross violations of internationally recognised human rights. And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, in that same spirit, the Senate resolution urged members of the international community to join the United States in a strategic collective effort to put pressure on the government of Cameroon, including through, I quote, the use of all available diplomatic and punitive tools. And I quote that Senate resolution at length, Madam Deputy Speaker, because I believe that we must ask ourselves what on earth those senators would think if they knew that on that very same day, when they were unanimously passing those strong words of condemnation towards the government of Cameroon and urging the international community to join them, here in the United Kingdom, we were bringing into effect a brand new continuity trade agreement with Cameroon, a trade deal which was agreed by ministers, apparently with no consideration and clearly no concern for the persistent gross violations of international human rights that are taking place inside Cameroon. A trade deal which none of us in this House, bar the ministers on the bench opposite, have even been allowed to read, let alone debate or approve, and a trade deal which may or may not contain provisions on human rights, but until the government finally decides to publish it, we, the elected members of this Parliament, simply cannot know. I hope that members on all sides will keep the example of Cameroon in mind and consider the words of the US Senate and the actions of the US Trade Representative when judging how to vote later on, because we all know that on occasions like this, when amendments are up for debate, ministers will try to persuade us that no, they don't disagree with the good intentions behind them, and they just don't think that they're really required. However, if that is what ministers are saying today in relation to Amendments 2 and 3 on human rights, or 1 and 5 on parliamentary scrutiny, I would only ask members to remember Cameroon. A trade deal done with a regime which is slaughtering women and children just because they live in English-speaking towns. A trade deal done in the face of the US Senate on the same day that they called for international support. And a trade deal which, incredibly, has still not been laid before Parliament almost 3 weeks after it came into force. I would urge all members to think about the Cameroon deal and how little consideration ministers gave either to human rights or to the rights of this Parliament when they decided to sign it. And then finally ask yourself, and ask your conscience, whether you accept what those same ministers are saying when they go through the amendments before us today and tell you they're not really required.
You had the opportunity to hear this. You have listened to it for yourselves. You now understand why these divisional officers, why these appointed mayors or appointed city mayors and all whatnot, why these governors, why these SDOs are all confused. Because of our resilience. My dear people, we have to stay strong. We have to continue to be strong. We are getting there. We are getting closer and closer to the objective. The confusion in the enemy's camp is unimaginable. Now, take note. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, remember your contribution to this struggle is being recorded. Whether you are operating in the public space or behind the scenes, your contribution is being recorded. And you will be judged. So whatever you are doing, do it with all your mind. We have to remain committed. Listen, this Monday ghost towns are the most peaceful acts we post every Monday. This approach is a universally accepted approach across the world. Peaceful resistance. That is why we in the civil society have continued to harp on peaceful resistance. Let me tell you something. You may be pushed to the walls. You think you should get discouraged. Don't. Tony Blair was a one-time prime minister in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, says, you will be judged by your results and how well you bring things to an end. Be strong. This message that he gave at the time he gave it is still as relevant today as it was at that time. We have to be strong. We have to remain strong. Our children will want to check tomorrow, to check in the records to see that my father contribute to building this beautiful country we are enjoying now. Did my mother contribute? Were they cowards? Did they run away when others were fighting? Did they abandon the struggle when others were sacrificing? These questions will come up, and we have to keep fighting. It does not matter where you are coming from. What matters is where you are going. I don't care what we are going through now. I don't care what we are facing now. I don't care the difficulties that we are going through. All of us are going through this. But my people, what I bother about is where we are headed to. Remember that on the day, thousands of years ago, when our Lord Jesus Christ gave up the ghost on the cross of Calvary, once he said, it is finished, what happened? Darkness descended upon the earth and lasted about 3 hours. It was in broad daylight. Darkness descended upon the earth. During that moment of darkness, God was transforming the world. God took off the light from our Lord Jesus Christ from that moment and allowed him to destroy every other thing that could have made our lives miserable. During this period of darkness, everything is being fashioned. The brand new Southern Cameroons we are fighting for is being fashioned. The beautiful country we are fighting for is being built in our minds. It's being built on paper. It's being constructed everywhere. And by the time this darkness is over and we get into the light, we will tell ourselves it was worth it. My dear people, we have to remain strong. I promised at the start of this video that we're going to have a moment to laugh. And it's not often that we do have the opportunity to laugh. 2021 is a wonderful year. It's going to be a year of so much laughter. Because it said, he who laughs last, laughs best. And definitely, trust me, there's going to be so much laughter. Because of our resilience, because of our astuteness, because of our determination, because we have decided even to break the barriers of the division that they planted between us, and we have restabilized. They are confused. And because of their confusion, that's what they're beginning to do and say some of these stupid things. Just listen. But please, laugh with moderation. I know you must have watched it before, but let's share it together here and laugh together on this platform.
A reasonable life. So after that very important message, we had calls from a traditional leader who has been working with some of those voices in the bushes. And yesterday, at exactly 10:30 in the night, some of a reasonable life.
Did you hear him? With some of those voices. It is not even just it isn't the first time. You know, we recall he went and assisted the people to bury the bereaved, and today he was with the voices. We don't know who he's going to be with tomorrow. This is what happens when you tell lies. Telling lies is not easy. They have panel beaten this particular lies over and over. Each time they see the international community moving, they start running up and down, helter-skelter, telling these lies, fabricating, refugees who have supposedly come back and are receiving a lot of goodies to settle back because everything life has come back to normal. My dear people, these are signs of the fact that we are scoring the goals just where we are supposed to score them. I like you to understand. Some of these people are sick. They're imprisoning themselves. They need liberation. They so badly even needed liberation more than us. Because by seeing their actions and the kind of confusion that's in them and the kind of things that they do, oh my goodness. Just listen to yet another buffoon. Please, just listen.
I tell you what, President Paul Biya is a blessing to this country. Cameroonians, we are lucky. We are made because we have Paul Biya, the helm of the statecraft. This president is our greatest marksman. He is our principal goal scorer. He has always taken us out of very difficult situations. First, because of his immense wisdom. Second, because of his aura and international clout. Those who meet President Paul, I tell you what, President Paul Biya.
My dear people, you just listen there. Look, I'd like us to be clear here. I, Mbakuro, I worked in that house at that CRTV. With this Ashu Nyenti was speaking just now, with that Moki Edwin Kinzeka, I was in that house long even before Ashu Nyenti came in. My dear people, you see what he's doing there? That is exactly what you need to do in La République du Cameroun to earn promotion. When you start having your eyes on the position of director, start having your eye on the position of this, start having your eyes on that. Listen, you hear that maybe the appointment season is coming. This is exactly what happens. People forget about their souls. People kill shame. They no longer have shame. People dehumanize themselves. People descend to the lowest ebb because they want to earn a thing. Just look at that very disgraceful act. You could see Moki Edwin Kinzeka himself confused. I'm sure Moki was asking, but wait a minute. Is this the same Paul Biya that I know about, that Ashu Nyenti is talking about, or is someone else? Moki was out. He was embarrassed. This is exactly what we are fighting to run away from. This is exactly what we don't want to happen to our children, to our children's children, to future generations of Southern Cameroonians. This is exactly what we really want to run away from, that unfortunately we found ourselves in the Southern Cameroons that came into this ancestral union in 1961. You didn't need to do this in order to earn a position. You got position because of what you knew, because of what you brought on board intellectually, technically, because of the know-how you could boast of. That is how you were rewarded. You were not given positions, not appointed, not placed in comfortable places because of the degree to which you could sing praises. I remember our journalists of old, the golden age, where we had people who worked on facts and talked facts only. Oh my goodness. This is what we are fighting for. This is what this whole struggle of the people of the Southern Cameroons is about. To restore the very soul of the Southern Cameroons. That country we will be proud of. That country where you will not be given a position because of who you know, because of which village you come from, because of who your father or your mother is or was, but because of what you bring on board, because of what you know. That is the Southern Cameroons we are fighting to restore and then to leave to generations upon generations of Southern Cameroonians to come. If you are involved in this struggle, you are involved in a noble struggle. If you are part of this movement, you are involved in a golden movement. My dear people, we must resist every single temptation to give up because we are so close. And I like to tell these people and some of you out there who are still thinking like them that you need to stay in that system and do this kind of odd things to earn a bit of living, and you think that because you are doing that it is good. Have the courage. Have the courage to do what John D. Rockefeller says. Don't be afraid to give up the good to go for the great. Listen, between the good and the great, there is the better. But what we are aiming for in the Southern Cameroons is the great. So even if you consider that where you are is good now, have the audacity to ignore that good and go for the great. And remember, I've always said this, that any time you settle for less than you deserve, you end up with less than you settled for. We must keep doing everything that it takes to score these goals. Thank you very much. And thank you for this beautiful moment we shared together. To God be all the glory.